Now, a federal judge in Tyler sentenced an Oklahoma man today for violating the Endangered Species Act. Dusty Caudill was sentenced to a year in prison for trying to sell the ivory of African elephants to an undercover agent right here in East Texas. KLTV7's JD Conti has that story.
Frustrated and confused. I mean, the ivory, the tusks that these people are trying to sell and creating value to is basically just a giant tooth that these animals need to survive.
It's the ivory of elephants like these at the Caldwell Zoo that Dusty Caudill was trying to sell to an undercover fish and wildlife agent in 2021. Today, he was sentenced to a year in prison for conspiracies to transport wildlife across state lines. Prosecutors say Caudill planned to travel from Oklahoma to Tyler to sell ivory.
He enlisted assistance to two other gentlemen to help him try to do that. And what they didn't know is they were dealing with the undercover U.S. Fish and Wildlife agent.
Caudill is the last of three to be sentenced in this case. David Bartlett received a year in prison, and Dusty Garcia received 2 years probation. Alex Suddeth at the Caldwell Zoo says there are several drivers behind this illegal trade.
Some believe that elephant ivory has medicinal properties. There's some believe that there's just a high value to it.
This trade has impacted elephants at an evolutionary level.
What's actually happening is the wild populations of elephants now, their tusks are actually starting to become shorter and shorter because the shorter your tusks, the more likely you are to survive because poachers are going for the elephants with the biggest tusks.
We approached Caudill as he left the courthouse, asking for a comment on his case.
God bless, Merry Christmas.
JD Conti, KLTV 7 News.
And Caudill is set to serve a year in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release.